So one of the main questions I get is, how do I get into Oxford? Or how do I get into a prestigious school? And what did I do? And what tends to work? And personally, I've always ignored those kinds of questions because really there's no one answer. And I also don't like to spend time giving that advice because it takes up so much of my time. So this is my one place where I'm giving all my advice, and I'm going to refer people to this video. So this is the masterclass on how to get into a prestigious university, whether it's for undergrad or grad, and just sharing my opinions and views on it. Now, before I begin, a caveat for that is I'm not an admission officer. I don't make these decisions. These are just my observations. This is something I've said to my students and said to my friends. But really there's no data for this. It's just me blabbering. So take it for what it's worth. So here's my first thing. Of course, merit matters. Like if you can't not be good and you can't expect people to just select you. So of course, academic grades matter. So let's talk about undergrad first. Of course, your scores matter from school, from your standardized tests and so on. And I'm not gonna just hammer that point. You know that. What I will make this video about is knowing that not everyone who's meritorious succeeds, and sometimes people who are not maybe as good on paper with academics still come in. As the social psychologist in the room, I'm going to talk about that and give you some practical steps and ideas on why that might be the case and what you can do to improve. So the first thing is to understand that decisions are not just made by rational thinking. Decisions are often made by unconscious rapid processes. So if you have read the book Thinking Fast and Slow by the Nobel Prize winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman, you will see that there are two systems that are at work. And when the admissions committee is making decisions, yes, they are evaluating objective criterion, and I'm sure these committees go up to lengths to ensure that unconscious biases are not at least driving those decisions. But at the same time, human minds don't just make decisions pure robotically. We are influenced by emotional factors. And I invite you to pay attention to these factors when you are submitting these applications. So what might that look like? Let's say you're writing an essay. Instead of just focusing on conveying why you are a good candidate, maybe you can focus on writing well. Maybe you can focus on structuring your essay in a way that it reads beautifully. Like when I read your essay, I should feel joy. When's the last time you thought about that? Maybe your essay can contain stories, and the stories could have an emotional charge. Don't hesitate to brag about yourself. Literally, that's the purpose of the essay, right? To tell about yourself. So move people, focus on the emotions, learn how to write good stories, learn how to create joy and excitement and convey your story with passion. Like talk about the time where you were struggling and talk about the time where you came out of it. If you have like many co-curricular activities, which many applicants tend to have, speak about them with passion. Don't just list them out. No one wants to read bullet points. Then you're placing a lot of burden on the academics and the decision makers because they have to put in a lot of effort from their mind. But if you have a very well-written, lucid essay, then that can make it easy for them to see your objective points and objective strengths. So focus on that. Other thing is when you are, let's say, giving an interview, yes, again, focus on the study, focus on the objective strength, but also focus on your speaking. Learn the art of public speaking, learn the art of persuasion. All of these are learnable skills. So for public speaking, I've written a blog post, check that out. It largely centers around getting okay with rejection, knowing how to posture, knowing how to speak. Like the average person speaks monotonically. They speak like this. And when I speak like this, I am boring. Versus if your voice sort of travels up and down and you're excited and sometimes you're mellow and sometimes you're serious. This creates joy, it creates that emotional engagement, and you have to learn that. Like that, I personally think that will increase your chances of getting in much more than just working overnight on remembering some facts. Like duh, no one expects you to know that. We are living in the age of ChatGPT and Google and Bing and all of those things. So focus on the delivery, focus on the public speaking, focus on the joy of studying what you're studying, and talk to them about the emotions that you will experience when you are in their institution. And that to me is the missing piece that most undergrads don't have. That to me is the core aspect that undergrads not tend to focus on. And so that would be my advice. If you're an undergrad, yes, do all of the classic, work hard in your school, volunteer, do co-curriculars, learn to play the guitar, blah, 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 do all of those shit, but also learn how to communicate and also learn how to write well and tell stories and use your voice in a way that engages people, triggers and inspires a lot of emotions. So those are my suggestions for undergraduates. For graduates, I think a lot of these things apply, and all of these things apply, in fact. Like, do work on your speaking, because for graduates, you have to learn how to give presentations. You have to learn to communicate. But there are a few more skills that I would add on top. And the first skill is social skill of cold approaching. So you have to be good at sending cold emails to potential supervisors. Don't hesitate to find an email and write to the person whose work you are interested in. So if you're applying for a DPhil or a PhD, what you need to do is read papers, read research that you're interested in, read about pop culture articles that you're interested in, and then almost all academics will have their emails publicly displayed. Write to them. Most of them respond. They are really nice people. And when you write to them, talk about what you liked about their work, talk about what you would like to do with that work, show engagement, again, show emotion, show ambition. And that is going to get you. I know so many people who just like wrote a cold email or just wrote a Twitter reply even, and then they're working with them next year or 2 years from now. So I highly recommend getting good with the social skill of talking to people. I myself was in India a few years ago, and I applied to many such PhD positions. I did not get into them, and I almost failed in all of them. But then later on, when I was doing my master's, I not only cold emailed people, but I met them in person, which is my second biggest tip. If you can, absolutely go and meet your potential supervisors or colleagues in person. That's going to make a huge difference. For A, it will set the right expectations. You will know what to expect of this person. And your supervisor tends to be a lot of source of extreme joy or extreme stress. And I know enough PhD students who are extremely stressed because of not so good supervisors. Not because their science isn't good or their humanities or their work isn't good, but because maybe their work style is not compatible. And you have to absolutely go and meet people. For me, it's been an absolute joy for the people I work right now, the lab I work right now. And a lot of that credit I do attribute to at least having one in-person visit. So if you can, absolutely schedule an in-person visit. If you can't, schedule a Zoom call. These people will also want to know you because you're going to be spending 3, 4, 5 years with them. You need to have that social skill of putting yourself out there and sending cold emails and asking people for conversations. Be proactive about that and layer that with all of the things I talked about for the undergrads, which is learn how to speak, learn how to engage, learn how to communicate well. Especially when you get into grad school and you get higher up, you have teaching responsibilities, you have supervision responsibilities, and you want your students to feel inspired with you. You want your colleagues to feel like it's fun to work with you. And you do that by focusing on understanding emotions, understanding social skills, and having the authenticity and the vulnerability of putting yourself out there, facing that risk of rejection head on, and having that courage to have that direct conversation, to not hide away in the jungle of emails and texts and scientific language, but just be like, hey, I'm interested in your lab, blah, blah, blah. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I would like to do. Would you like to have me? And would you like to get on a call with me to discuss if we are a good fit, or just have a chat? And I think a lot of academics would actually love that. They will get a great picture of you to decide whether or not you're a good fit, and you will get the same thing on the other side. So again, all of your research output, your hard work, and the objective criteria matters. But in this video, I've tried to highlight some things that most people who are applying for even jobs, let alone universities, miss. And hopefully this helps you and serves you. And let me know what you have done in the comments below. Have you sent some cold emails? Have you learned and worked on your public speaking? Have you worked on your posture? Have you learned how to talk, how to engage? I hope it serves you. Peace and all the best.